What's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle West.
Hey, I think we're live.
We are live. We are live on YouTube right now, despite all the problems. We're here.
Thanks.
Yeah, so tell us in the chat room that you can actually hear our discussion.
I'm really happy that worked out. And that other handsome guy, besides Mr. Kyle West, you saw was Adam Carlson.
The guy that needs a haircut really badly. It's got to happen soon.
Some women are into that, man. You need to have that burly look.
I can do what my dad does and just grow it all the way back, keep slicking it back, ponytail it up. He always looks sharp, man.
Pretty sweet. So it's a bitter episode, but we're going to get through it because we love the Vikings no matter what. And this is the 286th episode, if you can believe it, of the Purple People Podcast, cleverly titled Philly Dilly. The Vikings played a game in Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, we did not come out on top, so we will not be having any Super Bowl-related news that is happy.
No.
But, yeah, it was a rough game. We're going to walk you through that and give our opinions. But this is going to be a surprisingly lengthy show despite a loss, a pretty devastating loss at that, because we have a lot of stuff that we want to cover, so we're going to jump right into some quick hits.
I love quick hits. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
The Vikings have signed 6 players to the reserve and future deals. If I Stu-Gots this and I butcher this, you guys can make me do something weird in the chat because I'm not going to give you any of my money because I'm poor. So, an offensive tackle from Florida International, Duget Joseph. Cedric Lang, offensive tackle from Texas, El Paso. What's up? That's pretty cool. Right down the street from me. Kashad Lyons, a defensive tackle from Tusculum. If I said that right. Ooh, there he is again. And I can't say
Edie Agnibo.
There we go. Adam covered that
Good job,
for me.
Adam.
Defensive
He
end.
was a draft pick last year, man.
I remember the name.
Round.
Didn't remember how to say it. He's a defensive end from Northwestern. Horace Richardson, defensive back from Southern Methodist. Antoine Williams, who confused me when I read the notes with Antoine Winfield, former Viking great. And I was really excited. I was like, oh, my God, he can take Terrence Newman's place. But this is a linebacker from Georgia Southern, so he will not be coming back. Don't get your hopes up. Antoine Winfield is not coming back to play for the Vikings. I wish. But Antoine Williams
retired.
Antoine Williams just might.
Yeah, you never know.
After this loss this weekend to the Eagles, the Vikings are the 30th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, if you can believe it. That's crazy.
The Vikings have never selected at number 30 in the NFL Draft. They held the number 30 pick once, and that pick was traded down and eventually became Chris Cook.
Dear sweet God. I'm going to go ahead and make a bold statement now. We're not going to be doing any Chris Cook deals because we're not going to draft any crappy players like Chris Cook.
So there's your history behind the Vikings having the number 30 pick.
You know, I had a conversation today because my friend is a Packer fan. I will just go ahead and say I'm not going to give you a shout out, Devin Tiger, because you're ugly, but and you like the Packers. But they said, man, we looked at they've already started mock drafts, right? It was Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com. And that's his job. He's the draft guy, along with Bucky Brooks and a couple other guys, Mel Kiper. And so the Packers were going to take a defensive back. I said, that's a good choice. He's like, no, it's not. We can't draft defensive backs. I said, well, the Vikings can't seem to draft an overall number 1 wide receiver or a decent quarterback. But I forgot about Chris Cook. That was a pretty big bust.
Yeah, that was a bad one. And he had the size. He had some physical talent, but too many off-field problems and just couldn't put it all together. And we saw too much of that. That's why I was posting up on the Facebook page. Well, I did the posting on the Viking Age when I wrote about the Vikings having the number 30 pick. And I said the Vikings have never made a selection at number 30. And so the Daily Norseman started talking with us too, and they're like, well, they held the number 30 pick, and they ended up trading it, even though they never selected someone there. And then other people started popping in and being like, yeah, last time we had the number 30 pick, we traded down and got Chris Cook. It's like, oh, man. Thanks for that reminder.
That was he was one of my least favorite Vikings ever, and especially being fairly recent, too, in the Leslie Frazier era. Ugh. All right, let's move on past that. I don't even want to talk about Chris Cook anymore. You're welcome. We brought you back up again. Probably one of the biggest things that we're going to talk about this week, because we can talk about this a little bit in the show, and you guys give your thoughts in the chat, please. Welcome, everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Pat Shurmur was officially named the new head coach of the New York Giants.
5-year deal with the Giants. That's a long time.
Yeah, they've got a lot of looming questions. Their biggest star being Odell Beckham Jr. So you have a number one wideout, arguably top 3 in the league. But, man, did they have some issues to figure out. They had tons of injuries this year. They've got a great draft pick coming in at number 2 overall, so they can pick in a quarterback-heavy draft and maybe an Eli Manning replacement. He's going to have a tough job over there ahead of him, much like I think something that Mike Zimmer kind of walked into. He came in, they had to draft a quarterback. It was a similar situation, but he had some pieces. We'll see how Pat Shurmur does. I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. I think he did amazing this year for us. A lot of people out there are bitter. A lot of people saying he threw the towel in during the Eagles game. I don't think that's what happened at all.
I didn't like that they were working so many deals where the Vikings were still in it. I think that was a distraction, even though it wasn't maybe intended to be.
Right.
I think that maybe they kind of learned their lesson. Mike Zimmer did a little bit. I think that maybe that'll be something that he will reflect upon in the offseason and just tell any future hires that, like, look, we're kind of going to do what the Patriots are famous for doing, and that's we don't really let our coaches interview while our season is still going on. So if you sign with Minnesota, maybe you miss out on that first round of initial coaching hires if we make the postseason, but we want you to be 100% dedicated to our team and our season.
Right, and I do want to welcome Fire Breather and Yash to our chat. I know that it's kind of a weird time for us to pop up, and we came on kind of unexpectedly and at a weird time, but I'm glad you guys are able to join us, and hopefully we can get a couple more people here in the chat to BS with us. We always enjoy having you.
Absolutely, guys. Welcome to the chat. As we were saying, and just to put my 2 cents in there, I think Pat Shurmur did an amazing job this year.
He did great. He did above expectations.
Yeah,
kind of the same thing. And let's take a little bit of time to talk about this just for a second, if you guys don't mind. But last season was different. Teddy was definitely on the rise. We still had Adrian Peterson, although we could tell his production had gone down a little bit. And we just kind of had to make do. Now it was set. We were going to shift at running back. Our offensive scheme wasn't going to be run, or run. Hopefully we convert a third down and then punt like it was in previous years. So it was crazy because the same situation happened, only you had better pieces, in my opinion. I think personally, and I've said this on the show, it's nothing against him. I thought Sam Bradford was an overall better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater. They differ with styles, but overall, I think anyone would say that when they're both completely healthy, we would choose Sam Bradford. Dalvin Cook versus Adrian Peterson now at their career, that's a toss-up. But Pat Shurmur came in, and we had the same injuries as last time, right? And a quarterback goes down within the first week.
Yep.
Running back goes down in the first month. Kind of the same situation, almost. And then we just quietly go 13-3 with Case Keenum and a 2-headed monster that was second in the NFL in rushing. So,
well, Mike Zimmer was asked about that, and he's like, the difference is we have better players than what we had last year. And so that's why, even though we had injuries at key positions as well, excuse me, we had talent that was able to step in and continue on to play at a high level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Vikings backups played at a crazy level. Like I was saying every week so far, it's easy to forget that Dalvin Cook was on the shelf because of how well the other running backs are playing. Tom Johnson stepping in for Sharif Floyd is something that people didn't even think about. And all the injuries on the offensive line, some of the injuries in the secondary. You had Adam Thielen playing with with fractures in his back against the Eagles. This team was banged up, but still they had a lot of the depth and heart to make it through, which you got to give them a big thumbs up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was alluding to. A lot of guys are really upset that they thought he keyed in. And we can, they can change the rules later. Yeah, I totally agree with Kyle. I think that we should wait till the season's finally over and say, hey, look, I'm not going to deny you a chance to go advance your career as a coach. But until we're done, you are absolutely not going to interview anywhere. And I want that to be part of my staff. I want you to have your full and 100% focus on this, even though, like I said earlier, that wasn't the reason this game was over. But transitioning out of that conversation to the future, Minnesota's got to pick an offensive coordinator for next season. We don't know when that's going to be, but some of the rumors for the front runners are as follows. In-house, currently the quarterback's coach for the team, Kevin Stefanski.
That's Mr. West's choice.
Yes, that is the one that I think would be a good candidate. I want to see him get the promotion.
I would be on board with that because he's already been with the team. He understands how Mike Zimmer works, and he knows the personnel really well. Me and Adam Carlson really, really like Tony Sperano. I would love to see him get the call because he was the O-line coach this year. That was a major shift. Now, we did go on the free agency and dip around a little bit and had a better improvement from the debauchery that was the O-line last season. But I would like to see him. I think he brings a grit and something that you need there. And he's got experience from before. He's a name that's been floating around before, but that's just who me and Adam Carlson thought. You guys probably aren't going to like these next three. I'm not so much down on Mike McCoy because he was the former offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. But the names of Darrell Bevel and Ben McAdoo really put a bitter, sour taste in your mouth if you're a fan and you listen around the league like all of us do.
I'm going to be that guy who says I don't think I'd hate Ben McAdoo as much as others would.
Okay.
I do think that McAdoo made the right decision, that it was time to sit Eli Manning down and see what his other quarterbacks had, but I feel like he gave the nod to the wrong quarterback first.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
And then he backtracked on it when the media got on him. You got to hold your position firm. You got to, just say what you want to say. And I can see that he's not head coach material because he doesn't have that ability to just shut things down.
And I personally don't think for Darrell Bevel that he will actually come back to this team. Not that it ended poorly or anything, but I don't know. I just don't see him coming back to Minnesota.
You said Darrell Bevel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really want him back either. I know, and I heard something today about Russell Wilson, and it was really good. I think it was from Colin Cowherd, but I'm not really sure. So I can't give you the definite source, but they run a quirky offense because he's a shorter guy and he likes to scramble a lot. So you got to kind of build around that. We don't really have quarterbacks who scramble a ton. I know Case likes to step up in the pocket as a quarterback, which is nice. Bradford pretty much stays there the whole time and runs if he doesn't want to or doesn't have to unless he needs to go. Teddy's kind of a mixture of both, but I don't know, man. Darrell Bevel really, that offense in Seattle looked like crap, and it was 90%. And the writing's on the wall. I don't care if you don't think I'm right or not. The writing's on the wall. When Russell Wilson accounted for like 30 of their touchdowns, and they only scored like 36 the whole year, I think it was total, or 34, that's not good.
Yeah, my friend Clint was talking about Bevel, and he said that a good offensive coordinator can help hide some of the errors on the offensive line and lack of talent, and that definitely was not hidden in Seattle.
It's just frustrating. These aren't the names that we want to see, but there are some hopefuls there, and these aren't the only four that we're limited to. Mike Zimmer's going to have a long off season to kind of evaluate people and figure out who his man's going to be. And if you guys are on board like we are here at Purple People Podcast, Mike Zimmer's going to pick a good guy, because even when Norv was here, remember we had a different quarterback. He did pretty good when he had Adrian Peterson and Teddy Bridgewater. We did win a division that year, so.
I feel like Spielman and Zimmer are going to get together, and they're going to have some nice long talks about who they think is going to match up nicely. And I got faith the team can make a good decision, so the ball's in their hands.
Honestly, they've probably already had these discussions, and they're probably going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably talking about – I mean, this is a role that they need to get filled, and I think they're going to do it soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Moving along, talking about this loss out of the NFC Championship game, that means a lot of our players are going to be going to the Pro Bowl. Harrison Smith, since I think someone subbed out. Was it someone subbed out from the Eagles? Because he wasn't originally voted in. Harrison Smith, Kyle Rudolph, and Linville Joseph have been named to the Pro Bowl. This will make 7 total for the Vikings. Anthony Barr, Everson Griffin, Adam Thielen, Xavier Rhodes are the other players. Anthony Barr and Everson have declined the trip due to injuries, so probably a smart decision on their part. But I've already seen Xavier Rhodes.
I would not be surprised to see Adam Thielen drop out to work with those fractures in his back.
I'll have to check. I'm not sure. I want to say he was there as well, but I know Xavier Rhodes. I saw him on Instagram, shooting a video saying, "Hey, what's up, man? We're here," and he was really excited. So that's pretty good. Pretty exciting for all these guys, though, and rightfully so for guys like Harrison Smith. Pro Football Focus named this guy their Defensive Player of the Year.
They did.
And they didn't name him to the Pro Bowl. He wasn't selected. And, I mean, you don't get a bigger snub than that when you're an All-Pro and then Pro Football Focus's Defensive Player of the Year. Glad to see Kyle Rudolph in there. He had a quietly awesome year. And Linval Joseph, of course, man, he should be there every year. He's a monster. So pretty happy for those guys.
Crypto says no wrong. He's there, but I'm not talking about him being at the Pro Bowl or being a Pro Bowl player. I'm talking about him playing in the Pro Bowl because of how much he talked about it, just playing in pain against Philly. Maybe Thielen is way stronger than I imagine, or the pain isn't as bad as I'm thinking, but I really hope that Adam Thielen can play for those watching. And just for a show of hands here, are any of you guys actually planning on watching the Pro Bowl?
When is it?
Sunday night.
No.
I won't be able to because I won't be able
I'm well aware that I will also be watching the Royal Rumble.
It's way more entertaining than the fucking Pro Bowl.
I think, all right, just a sidetrack on that conversation, I'll try to show it on my phone here for people and hold it. That's Adam Thielen's wife, and there he is. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be there.
Oh, yeah, he's there.
It says Pro Bowl 2018, go NFC. So I guess he's powering through it, like you said, man. That's pretty cool.
I saw crazy.
That's his wife's account. I checked his account first, so he'll be there. But I won't be watching because we have our big fun, I like to call it Call of Duty night at work. It's the last night of the first 10 days where Armageddon just happens with all my dog handlers.
Like in the office, how all the people get together and play Call of Duty.
Oh, it's a little more intense than that. But yeah, we start at sunset, so I'm sure I'll probably miss the Pro Bowl this year, but I'm happy for all those guys.
Oh, absolutely. I want to give a little bit of a rundown because there's some cool stuff going on this week in Minneapolis that people should know a little bit about. First of all, I want to talk about the Wounded Warriors amputee football team playing Minnesota Vikings alumni on New Year's Eve, 6 p.m. Tickets are $10, and there are a ton of Vikings players as well as Wounded Warriors and celebrities around the NFL that are going to be there. Highly recommend you guys check that out if you get the chance. If nothing, it's for a good cause. There's raffles, there's autograph sessions, photo sessions. Yeah, check it out if you can. Also, there is Bowl the Pro Bowler and the big game, Purple and Gold kickoff party. Both of those are going to be a lot of fun on February 1st. Lots of Vikings players at both of those, and I will be at all three of these events. So if you want to come hang out, feel free.
That's pretty awesome. If you guys can make it up there and hang out, should definitely go hang out with that guy. It's pretty cool.
And February 3rd, there's also the 18th annual Celebrity Sweat Celebrity Flag Football Challenge. So yeah, there's a lot going on if you're a football fan this weekend, and not a lot of it costs a ton. So hopefully you guys can check out some of that stuff.
Sounds like a fun time. I like it.
Yeah.
So which do you guys want to run through first for our main topic of this show? Do you want to talk about the Eagles game or the players hitting free agency? I personally...
Let's run through the game first, get it out of the way.
Let's get that out of the way. That's what I wanted to do as well.
All right, so the Vikings played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Eagles defeated the Vikings 38-7 in a game where it only felt like the Vikings had a chance for the first several moments. Minnesota took the opening drive down for an effortless touchdown and never really got back in position to put points on the board again. Strangely enough, a lot of the stats are kind of equal to where like the Eagles picked up 27 first downs compared to the Vikings 22. Minnesota actually ran more total plays than the Eagles, 67-64. But where a lot of the difference came was time of possession, with the Eagles at 34-04, Minnesota at 25-56. The Vikings defense was on the field a lot of the time, and they could not find an answer to the Eagles' passing attack, which was absolutely mind-blowing, considering that was one of the things that Minnesota probably didn't have as a top priority when it came to stopping. The Eagles put up 456 total yards on the Vikings defense, something that's almost unheard of this year. I mean, if you would have told me that was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you one bit. As a whole, the game, a very rough one where you kind of wonder what went wrong and what fell apart. And a lot of the blame is being put on Case Keenum, who went 28 for 48 for 271, one touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked once, QBR 28.6, and a rating of 63.8. Of course, a lot of those came when Keenum was heavily under pressure or made contact with. So some of it may not be his fault. He also made a bad decision at one time, but it was kind of hard to see the Vikings offense struggling so much. That does say a lot for the Eagles defense, though, as well. Jerick McKinnon was the Vikings' leading rusher with 40 yards on 10 attempts. Latavius Murray was next with 18 yards on 6 attempts. Vikings running backs only ran the ball 16 times in the entire contest. And that's mostly because it got out of hand really, really darn quickly. Jerick McKinnon also led the Vikings in receiving yards, catching 11 of his 12 targets during the game. And if that tells you anything about how fast the Vikings had to get the ball out, that your running back was targeted 12 times, that's a crazy sign. Diggs caught 8 of his 12 passes for 70 yards. Jarius Wright 3 for 51, Thielen 3 for 28, Rudolph 1 for 25, and Latavius Murray 2 for 11. Case Keenum also had a strip fumble sack that was lost. That was a poopy turnover. So all 3 of the turnovers came from Case Keenum's hands, even though you can't really say that they're all his fault. Anthony Harris led the way with tackles with 7. Harrison Smith and Eric Kendricks, along with Danielle Hunter, 6 each. Linval Joseph with 5. There was only the 1 sack on the day, and that belonged to Danielle Hunter, which was kind of a surprise considering he was going against one of the best right tackles in the NFL. Let's see what else we got here. Passes defense, we got Eric Kendricks with 2. Trey Waynes had 1 for 3 total. See, quarterback hits. Everson Griffin got 2 licks on the quarterback, while Anthony Barr, Linval Joseph, and Danielle Hunter each had 1. Kai Forbath made his extra point, which is awesome. Brian Quigley, 3 punts, averaging 48.3 with 1 touchback. Again, that's with good numbers. So special teams seem to be fairly on point. And I'm not going to run down the Philly stats because I don't think a lot of people want to hear those.
Nope, don't care about that.
Sure don't. And I will go ahead and give my 2 cents for this game. Hats off to the Eagles. Hats off to Doug Peterson. Hats off to Nick Foles.
Yeah.
They simply outcoached and outplayed us. I'll go ahead and give my rant on that, and I'll give you kind of an input because we're going to give game balls and donkeys here in a second. But the Vikings just simply have no excuse for letting 38 unanswered points go up. I can see a couple here and there, 14, 17 points. It happens. But holy Jesus, this was the worst game of the season. And it couldn't have come at a worse time. We still love this team. If any, I'm not even going to go to my rant yet. We were just simply outplayed and outcoached. And hats off to them. There's no way in hell I'm going to root for the Eagles because they just beat the hell out of us. And I am a fan of greatness. And the Philly fans kind of pissed me off this week, and I'll talk about that later.
All right, I'm going to go into a little mini rant before we do the game ball donkey.
Let's do it.
Up. I know that a lot of Vikings fans are upset at the way that Eagles fans were treating anybody with Vikings colors at the stadium during this game. And I just want to say that if you are one of those fans that is planning on becoming an Uber driver to drop off Philly fans far away from the stadium, or planning on assaulting Eagles fans when they come to the stadium, be better than that. You don't want the kind of reputation that Eagles fans are getting. Minnesota should be a place where football fans can come together and enjoy the game. Don't stoop to that low level. Be a good fan and represent the team well, please.
Yep. I'm with Adam on that one. There was just a lot of vulgarity, a lot of immaturity, a lot of despicable things from Eagles fans. And what's really weird about it is they seem to enjoy the more bad. I understand, a couple of F-bombs get dropped or the Vikings suck, or when you leave, people are usually douches because they've been drinking and blah, blah, blah. But these guys were going after our beloved Millie that was at the Saints game. People were
throwing frozen beers at fans.
Throwing alcohol on 10-year-old girls. Like, you got to have some kind of humanity about yourself and be respectable, and they don't have any. And that's why I'll say it on the show. I am hoping and praying just because of that alone. Nothing against Eagles players, but for the fans, I hope the Patriots beat you 85-0 in the Super Bowl because that was obnoxious. Now, there was a good act that we can talk about. A lot of Philly fans donated to Mike Zimmer's foundation, which Adam wrote about. So that's pretty cool. But as far as treatment of fans, I've been to plenty of NFL games, mostly Carolina games. I have never seen something like that before. There's a little trash talk especially if you're on the losing end of whatever team walking out of that stadium. But that was absolutely despicable.
I've seen people in Packers gear show up at training camp, and I realize that that's a more family-friendly event than a game anyway. But it's like it's still Minnesota Vikings training camp, and you'll get like people in Packer gear show up, and
Sure.
I mean, occasionally they get like a boo as they walk by or whatever, but nobody really cares. I mean, nobody. It's like, oh, you're clearly here with your family in Vikings gear, like whatever. Like I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, don't assault anybody. Don't kidnap anyone.
Don't throw beer at them. Don't sign up to be an Uber driver to be a douche. When I went to Minnesota,
although that is kind of funny.
It's hilarious, but don't do it because, like Adam said,
if you do it, if you do, get a good video.
Like Adam said, you guys, there's a thing called Minnesota Nice. I experienced it the 2 times I visited Minnesota. You guys are pretty much Canadians, all right? I noticed when you bump into people in Minnesota, they'll apologize to you. Hey, it's just how nice people are up there, so don't do that. But I had to get that off my chest. It's been brewing all week. It's been hard to watch these videos, but seeing that turnaround today about donations going to the Mike Zimmer Foundation was really nice.
Yeah, there are good fans in the Philly fan base.
That's 2 weeks in a row that opposing teams have donated in a Minnesota type of way, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but let's do our game ball and donkey because this should be really interesting.
All right. Well, I give mine to Jerick McKinnon because he led the team in rushing and in receiving. And, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that choice since a lot of the offense went through Jerick McKinnon.
He's had a really quiet but really productive year.
Now, Jerick McKinnon has gone on record as saying that he wants a featured running back job somewhere. I don't know if he's going to get that or what he's really looking for as far as a contract or a timeshare. Because featured running back jobs aren't really they aren't common in the NFL at all anymore. And you almost have to be a stud early round draft pick
right
to get that kind of a job. So he's going to need to go somewhere where he gets a timeshare, but what kind of share he's looking for, what kind of deal he's looking for, I don't know. But I hope that he can find what he wants. I hope it's in Minnesota, but if it's not, that's
I have an inkling there that he's going to wind up back here. I think that
you think he's just kind of leveraging a bit?
Yeah, because it's for all the reasons you said. No offense to Jerick, I'm sure he would say it to your face and be like, "Nah, I'm just as good as those guys." Because I believe in him. No, he believes in himself. He's not Todd Gurley. He's not David Johnson. He's not Le'Veon Bell. Let's just put it out there. But he's not a bum running back. He produces.
No, he can be a definite contributor in any offense.
I think it works well for us.
The thing for Minnesota is that you kind of have to look at which 2 running backs are going to complement one another well. And I don't necessarily know if a combination of Dalvin Cook and Jerick McKinnon is exactly what the Vikings would want. They're very
That's a good point.
They're very kind of similar, and I think that Dalvin Cook. I think I could see them letting McKinnon go, even though I like him a lot. I could see them letting him go because they view Cook as an upgrade. So I could see them keeping McKinnon and C.J. Ham as well too, because C.J. Ham fills in nicely for that fullback blocking kind of role as well too.
I never thought of that, man, because Dalvin Cook's been out of the picture so much. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at Dalvin Cook and how that just changes the whole dynamic of what you want to keep. And
yeah, he started jogging this week too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
My game ball is going to go to Linval Joseph because he is that monster in the middle. The Eagles knew not to test him in the middle too much. If you watch the game again, which I tried watching it again for a bit and gave up, but Linval never turned his motor off. He kept playing all game at a high level. He ended up with one of the best Pro Football Focus grades from the game as well. Linval Joseph, I can't say enough good things about the man.
Yeah, and if you notice a lot, because there was a little bit of rushing yardage on the Vikings this game. Let's not kid ourselves. But it wasn't because of him up the middle. Jay Ajayi was getting free, and then our safeties and corners had to come in, and the linebackers had to do their job. So I like your choice of game ball, man.
I went with Adam Thielen just for playing with, what did we say, fractured.
Yeah, he has small fractures in his back.
Small fractures in his lower back. That's got to be extremely painful to get out there and play and to get hit. So he just gets my game ball for toughing it out and being on the field and being there for this team.
I've got a question when we get done with this Game Ball Donkey segment, and I think it's going to spark a lot of conversation in the chat and between you guys.
Good. Let's finish it up then. My donkey is Terrence Newman. The secondary went, especially when Xavier Rhodes went to the sidelines. Xavier, heart and soul of the defense in the secondary, is, along with Harrison Smith. Those two are the presence that makes the most offenses feared. And Terrence Newman, as much as I love him and how he's been an ageless wonder, he struggled to keep up with these Eagles receivers. And there were times when, when he was shifted into taking on one of the outside receivers that he just plain couldn't keep up anymore. And maybe that's Father Time catching up on him. Maybe it was just him struggling or having a bad day, or maybe even a minor injury or something. But he looked a step slower than he usually does, and that extra step was not good.
Yeah, him and Trey Waynes had a struggle of a day. But you're right. It's one of the few games where he actually kind of played to what his age said on paper.
We haven't gotten to say that much all year long. He's been an excellent player, stepping in and doing fantastically. But yeah, I feel bad I had to give it to him. But every time I watch the tape, it's the one thing that sticks out at me.
I don't think I've given it to Case at all this year for the donkey, and I couldn't do it this game because a lot of people online decided to say Case Keenum blew this game and he was terrible. The biggest comment that I saw was Case Keenum got exposed for the backup quarterback that he is. No, the Vikings offensive line got worked. I've said worked plenty of times before in previous shows, especially last season. They got manhandled. I don't know why in the blue hell we started Rashad Hill and moved our right tackle to left guard. That still bothers me. And I
don't understand that move either.
It pissed me off, to be quite honest. When we started the game and they said where everyone was, I said, what the F?
It was bad last week. It was worse this week.
That was a stupid move. I don't know if that was Zimmer's call or whoever else, but that was a awful move.
And with what the Vikings paid Remmers to come over and be the right tackle,
I don't understand.
You have to wonder if they were hiding some sort of minor injury and he couldn't, get low enough or move his feet fast enough or what. But it was just a decision that didn't make much sense to me. And Rashad Hill just could not keep up.
It was bad. And now Case did get some pressure on the left side of the line as well, on his blind side. But I gave mine to Rashad Hill. He got worked, and I don't want to give it to him because when he gets told to step up and play, he actually had some pretty damn good games this year, quietly. But
yeah, it's weird to give a donkey, to the swing tackle player who's supposed to be like an emergency guy you plug in.
But he's had some good games. We know his potential. We've seen it. But man, I think Chris Long was playing against him. Chris Long was having a day against Rashad Hill, and it was awful to watch.
I'm going for third down defense on the Vikings, who could not get a stop to save our lives, to save the game at all. There were a couple times where I really felt that even when it was starting to get a little out of hand, it's like if we can get like one big stop on this third down, we could swing some momentum and get back into the game. And they could not do it time and time again.
Eagles were 10 for 14 on third down conversions.
They let Philly convert for a third and long, and it was the first one that they had converted since Carson Wentz went down. It was terrible. It got to the point where I couldn't even hardly watch the end of that game.
There were times during the game where I considered turning it off. I really did.
Yeah, me too.
I was at a bar and I stayed for the whole thing, and it was obnoxious. And at one point, you had to accept it. I kind of accepted it by halftime. I was like, I don't think we're going to win this game.
Right.
And it was crazy. We hadn't thrown a pick six all year, and they came in this game. So pretty much it happened how you didn't want it to. But I told my friends, I said, if we lose, I want us to get stomped. Because if we lost, imagine if we lost like the Saints lost to us last weekend, we would be even more mad than we are right now. So I guess that's a positive.
We could have came back after that first pick six because that was so early in the game.
Yeah.
It was either the second or the third time the Vikings had the ball. I don't remember. But they drove up the field. They were almost in scoring position. And then that was when that fumble happened.
Yep.
And after that fumble was really the turning point for this game, where there was no shot at any point from that point onward. It was just over for Minnesota.
I also hated the decision that Mike Zimmer made to go for it on fourth down when they were like 8 yards away from the end zone, instead of kicking the field goal and taking it from a 4-possession game to a 3-possession game.
Yep.
I did not like that decision either.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need any small amount of momentum you can get. And just having that door closing your face, even though Adam Thielen was close to reeling that in, I mean, it was hard. It was hard to watch.
Well, now that we can move along and say what a crazy good season, way above expectations.
Absolutely.
Absolutely didn't end like we wanted. Let's be honest with ourselves. All right, this isn't the topic that I wanted to talk about, but I just want to throw this out there. If you thought it sucked and it was disappointing this week, could you imagine if we made it to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots? I think we'd be just as heartbroken.
You know, I don't know. I'd have been more okay with that.
I honestly think we would have matched up pretty well with the Patriots. I've heard that from a couple people as well, and it's been said in major sports networks, but it wasn't meant to happen this year.
This is still a young team. There's a lot of toughness. We got some players coming back from injury that could be difference makers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to look forward to in the season going forward, and we got some amazing moments that fans will remember their entire lifetime.
And record-wise, this is the second best team we've ever had, so if you can believe that. Pretty crazy. Historic defense on third down, best in the league in a couple areas in defense. And Case Keenum put together quite the season, and we just had some breakout stars, which leads me to my next topic. And I want to ask everyone in the chat, and I want to drop this on Adam and Kyle live here on the show. With what happened with Diggs in that game 2 weeks ago, and he caught a ton of balls in the postseason. Who's our number one wide receiver? Has Diggs surpassed Thielen?
Do you need a number one wide receiver? Do you need to designate them that way?
Nope, and I don't want to.
I think that's a little cliche.
That's why I'm prefacing this here before, and that's my whole point of this conversation. Everyone is looking for a Julio Jones for their team or an Antonio Brown. The Vikings don't need one. And I keep telling about my friends, man, we keep whiffing on these draft picks. These number one, Cordero Patterson was a bust. Laquan Treadwell is turning out to look like a bust. Do we really need one? All year we've been talking about Adam Thielen, and then who comes up clutch in the postseason? Stephon Diggs. I just wanted to throw that out there,
as soon as you cue in too much on one, the other one's right there. And you got Pro Bowl tight end Kyle Rudolph thrown in there. You got Mr. Clutch third down, Jarius Wright doing his thing.
Death taxes and Jarius Wright on third down.
Even Michael Floyd and Laquan Treadwell got in on some action. So a little bit of everything, sprinkling it on in.
I was really proud of Stephon Diggs. I just want to give him a shout out there because he up and down. He's not an inconsistent receiver. I really wish that he could have hit 1,000 yards because he was so close the last couple of years. But man, he's been quietly getting better and better and better each year. Which brings me to the next point and the next topic in this show. With all these good players, man, we're going to see some of them leave because they're going to chase money, which they rightfully have the choice to do so. There's going to be some players hitting free agency, and we're going to run down that list and talk about them because if we lose a handful of these guys, this could be pretty significant. So let's start from the most important position and go all the way down, the most talked about position too. All three of our quarterbacks are hitting free agency.
3 of our 4, come on.
Well,
Kyle Slaughter, number one on the depth
Kyle
chart.
Kyle Slaughter
right
is number one on the Vikings depth chart right now.
Yep, he's the only one.
I'd rather not have him at the quarterback one position, but yes, you guys are right. Sam Bradford, Teddy Bridgewater, and Case Keenum are set to hit free agency.
Case Keenum's probably bound to cash in somewhere on a big deal. Mm-hmm. One that he may not be able to recreate the success he had in Minnesota with due to the system and personnel. Sam Bradford is a big question mark going forward for any team based on his health and those knee issues. The fact that he was willing to try coming back, what was it, against Chicago?
Yeah.
And he could not move that knee enough to even move around in the pocket. And then he had to move out. Meanwhile, Teddy Bridgewater, the Vikings played it really safe with him and kept him out of action for a long time. And he should be 100% next year if the Vikings choose to retain him. So I expect the Vikings to make plays for both Case Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
And see what shakes out between the two.
We can go ahead and get that one out of the way. We've said it before, and we'll talk about it in depth and during the offseason. But Sam Bradford is going to be gone. I think he's going to be a good fit for a team within the top 10 who needs a journeyman quarterback while they draft one to maybe sit until it's time for him to go. Sam's just going to have to accept that role. He wasn't happy with that in Philadelphia because they got Carlson Wentz. Luckily, we got him for 2 years, but that's just the role he's going to have to play because he's so injury prone. Meanwhile, Mike Zimmer and the Vikings have totally stood by Teddy Bridgewater through everything. They want to take a chance because they believe his ceiling is high and how young he is. I do want to see them make some sort of attempt to keep Case Keenum because he had his best year here. Who knows? Maybe it's not a fluke. Maybe it was kind of like the Sam Bradford thing. Maybe he just had crappy coaches and not as good personnel before and a good system. Who knows? But I'm with you on that, man. I think we definitely keep Teddy Bridgewater and possibly Case Keenum. I don't think Bradford stays.
Yeah, Teddy's already said that he wants to be a starter next year, and he doesn't know if that's what's Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that he should want a starting job somewhere. If you are in the NFL and you don't want a starting job, just go.
Unless you're Jay Cutler, when it's written on your face that you don't want to start, but you kind of get forced to come out of retirement. And
see, Jay Cutler wants to get paid as a starting quarterback. He just doesn't want to be the starting quarterback.
Right. Moving along with these guys that are going to hit free agency, likely to retire is one of our favorites here on the show, guard Joe Berger.
Yeah, guard center Joe Berger. I think there's about a 70% chance, if I were to guess, that he's going to retire. He said that it would be much easier to retire if the Vikings won the Super Bowl. That didn't happen. So maybe he'll be hungry and come back for one more year. Kyle Rudolph went on record as saying that Berger is playing at the top of his game and wants to see him stick around. So it sounds like the locker room's trying to get in his ear a little bit to keep him on the team a little longer too.
We have thoroughly enjoyed Joe Berger here at the Purple Field Podcast, and I know that all the guys that are playing on the team have loved him too. Hopefully he comes back, like you said, give it one more go. Moving right along, we did sign Michael Floyd to a one-year deal, which is up. Not really a productive year from him, although I did love his attitude and kind of his presence of, yeah, man, I've had my struggles, but I'm still here to put in work. I love that Mike Zimmer took a flyer on him, and he caught a couple balls, but nothing crazy for a former first-round pick, but he's set to hit free agency. Wouldn't mind seeing him back to see if he gets more of a role. Probably not, because we kind of know who our two all-stars are, but
he came in, he stayed sober, he did not get in any additional trouble. He did what the Vikings asked him to do. You can't really complain.
Nope.
I could see them being interested just as he's a good depth player. But he's got the potential to bust out big plays. It just didn't happen this year for whatever reason. But I don't know. It's interesting to see what'll happen with him.
Because all the balls are getting thrown to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs.
Sure.
But hey, that's a good problem we have, right?
Yep.
We have 3 running backs that are set to hit free agency, which is crazy. I thought Latavius was a one-year thing, but we're going to keep Latavius Murray. We were talking about Jerick McKinnon, Bishop Sankey, and Mac Brown, who is surprisingly still on the I didn't think we still had him on the team, but that's...
Are those other two practice squad guys?
They should be. I don't. It doesn't say
Sankey and Brown are practice squad guys.
Well, there you go. It didn't see it in the notes, but we said it earlier in the show. Jerick McKinnon believes he should be a feature guy somewhere, and we've already went over that, so we won't beat a dead horse. But I think another team would give him a look and pay him a little bit. If the Vikings decide they don't want to re-up and they think Dalvin Cook could probably be better, I'm
not expecting any of those 3 to come back.
I don't think Jerick McKinnon comes back. I think he should chase money. I think he is going to chase money. And we'll see if we can't produce with his skill set what we have in Dalvin Cook. Even though Dalvin Cook has been on record saying he loves going between the tackles.
Right.
I would hate to see Jerick McKinnon go, though. I've thoroughly enjoyed him as
please
a
don't.
player.
Hey, please don't go to Green Bay. God, wouldn't you guys hate that? You see McKinnon go to Green Bay?
Oh, that'd be rough.
I think they're pretty set at running back, and whoever they drafted, no name the guy that they drafted, I think they're pretty set, but who knows, man? That would be a Minnesota thing to happen to us. Going down the line, a couple offensive linemen, Nick Easton, Cornelius Edison, and Jeremiah Searles are all restricted free agents.
I can see both Easton and Searles returning if the Vikings don't land a top draft pick or free agent at either of those positions. Both of them can provide a lot of versatility at the O-line. Cornelius Edison, I could see him possibly returning to the practice squad because the Vikings like what they're seeing in him. They've kept him around. They've elevated him twice this year, I think, to the main roster. So, yeah, I think that I expect all 3 of those guys to be back next year.
Yeah, I agree with Adam.
I'd like to see all 3 come back as well. We're all on the same pitch here.
Nick Easton for sure is not going anywhere. He'll be back.
Yeah, he's a restricted. All three of them are restricted free agents, so
Yep.
I don't see any of them traveling anywhere.
I'm going to skip the next guy because he's our favorite player. No, I'm not. Quarterback Tremaine Brock.
Let him walk.
Yeah, I can't believe he wasted a 7th rounder on that
I had
guy.
forgot that we gave up a draft pick for him. I hate that so much.
Yeah, everybody should. And
Let him walk. Draft a corner early. Let's see what we can do.
Yep.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's move on from Tremaine Brock. We have moved on. Safety Anthony Harris is a restricted free agent. I really want to see this guy come back. I've loved him since I was stationed in Virginia. He's from Virginia. I think he does a solid job most of the time when he's asked to come in place of Sendejo or Smith. I think he does a phenomenal job. So I would love to see him back with the team. Oh, here's another good one too. The next, God, these are all good names.
Yeah, the next one is the one that I'm kind of concerned about.
Oh, because if he walks, we're definitely going to have to look there early in the draft. Defensive tackle Tom Johnson. We said it on the show many times. He could start somewhere else.
Could. And if someone gives him starter money, I don't know if the Vikings are ready to.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be one of the ones to watch in the offseason.
Priority. They're all priorities, but I think Tom Johnson is a priority that they have.
I got a feeling Mac Brown might not be priority.
Yep, him and Tremaine Brock can share the same Uber to the Minneapolis airport onto their next destination.
To Cleveland.
Oh, God. Pit of misery. Linebacker Emmanuel
Dilly.
Linebacker Emmanuel Lemur. Don't know if he's going to stay. What do you guys think? I've enjoyed him being on
Mike Zimmer. I don't know. Mike Zimmer seems to talk positively about him.
Right now, Minnesota seems to like having a lot of linebackers available. They've got 2 solidified starters, just looking for that third guy. And I think if they find that third guy, then they may keep him as a backup rotational guy. You never know.
4 more names on this list, and you guys all know them.
Yeah.
Cornerback Terrence Newman. What do you guys think? I think he's going to retire.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame him one bit.
He's 39.
I think he probably should.
I don't want to base it off this last game. I think he's probably still in really good shape, but he's 39, man. How long can you maintain what he's been? He's been defying the odds pretty much since he got here.
It'd be awesome to see him stick around and keep contributing, playing at a high level. But I don't know. I have trouble seeing him saying, "Okay, let's go one more year." But if he feels up to it, I'm sure the Vikings would be more than happy to keep him around.
Do you think that Mike Zimmer has it in him to cut Terrence Newman after preseason? If they should bring him back, I'm serious because he's been with him so long.
No, I don't think that would happen. He would have to have a real bad preseason for Zimmer to consider that.
But if it's what's best for the team, I mean, if it's happened to other players, happened to Antoine Winfield.
I still don't see it happening.
I don't know.
That's a good one. The last 3 names we got: defensive tackle Shamar Stephen. He did get injured. Was in the Saints game.
Yep,
I think so. Yep.
We'll see how his injury goes. Try to keep you guys updated on that. He's been pretty good for us. A little rotational guy. He's been a pretty good player. I'd like to see him back as well. Probably the biggest question mark here, because why not? But he's done a pretty good job overall. He's had a couple of misses here and there, but Kai Forbath. You guys want to keep Kai Forbath around?
I like Kai.
I do too.
I wouldn't mind a kicker with a little stronger leg. I mean, Kai's been kind of inconsistent, so I could see another kicking battle happening this year.
Do you think they could draft a kicker and have the old competition again?
Yeah, that's what I've been calling for.
Yeah.
They're going to listen to Adam. They listen to us every week. They're going to take our advice at some point.
Mike Zimmer's taking notes on this podcast.
And the next guy's pretty much gone.
Long snapper Jeff Overbaugh.
Yeah, McDermott will be back.
Kevin McDermott's going to kick you out of that spot. So
yeah, sorry, buddy. Thank you for your contributions. You played well, and I know you'll catch on somewhere else.
He's got a cool name, though. I would buy a jersey with Overbaugh on the back.
It does. It sounds great.
Sounds really neat. Can he play linebacker?
I don't know.
That's a cool linebacker name.
That'd be pretty. That'd be a pretty skinny linebacker.
All right, let's go to our social media question of the week. Who's got that?
I got you right here. So Kyle West posted a nice picture of Dalvin Cook making his best Jerick McKinnon impression, looking like a jet. Social media question of the week that was a tough loss on Sunday, and it's easy to sit here and read the negativity on social media. Let's remember we're all in this together, and we bleed purple. For this week's social media question, I want everyone to comment a positive thing they're looking forward to seeing from the Vikings next year. Kyle West personally would like to say he can't wait for the return of Dalvin Cook. I think that's a pretty big one. That's probably the biggest thing there besides the quarterback battle. So let's go through these comments real quick. Daniel Whitford said, Cook's return is all well and good, but the new offensive coordinator and who's going to be the quarterback is the only story. Well, Daniel, thank you for commenting, but it's quite the opposite. It's not the only story. There's plenty of stories.
No, the offensive coordinator story, we got lots going on, lots that needs to be covered.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because we're going to take Kirk Cousins and pay him $100 million, right? That's what you guys wanted to hear. God, I hope not. I've never seen this name before. Maya Holler. That's a cool name. Or Haller. I don't want to say it. So it's one of the two. I'm sorry. You can message me a nasty message because I didn't say your name right. I'm sorry. Everybody wants returning players. I would love to see Cook and Teddy back, but with Shermer most likely gone in a day or so, I really want to see continued progression from the offensive coordinator and offensive play. I don't want to take any six back in this transition. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, perfect.
That's really important.
The defense doesn't really concern us. You know, Mike Zimmer's pretty much put his stamp. George Edwards has done a phenomenal job, but man, the offense really stepped up. So we don't want to go back too far. We would love to.
Yeah, it looks like Edwards is probably sticking around. What do you think?
I think so too.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, we love George, and I know the players seem to like him a lot too. He does a really good job too, man. Especially being under a defensive-minded head coach, he's done a really good job. My buddy David Ordson back in North Carolina says, all injured players returning, especially Cook, and the possibility of what the draft and free agency can bring us. I mean, who thought we would be able to land Cook last year? Side note, I'm ready to see Teddy start next year, even if it's on another team. Sorry I couldn't keep it to one.
That's okay.
That's all right, David.
I'll never say you're being too positive.
Right?
Way too much positivity, buddy. Step it down.
I'm going to go through a couple of these short ones here, and we'll end with the longer ones because we got a good friend of ours on here. Nathan Lee Goskin says, healthy Dalvin and Teddy. Can't wait for that. Scott Sheetal says, can't wait for next season. Skull. We'll give you a skull on that one, Scott. Thank you. Trent Kikadakis says, Dalvin Cook. John Dosel says, a chance to play the Super Bowl at home. Oh, wait, with crying faces. I know, man. It sucks. I saw that a bunch of Packers guys, because Packer fans have nothing to do because their team sucked this year.
Yeah, we got infiltrated a little bit by some Packer fans.
Tag a Vikings fan to ruin their day with the Eagles being their end zone being painted for the Super Bowl. It's like, but you weren't in the playoffs. That's okay though. Scott Conrad, we need a better offensive line. Keep taking first round O lineman and another playmaker at wide receiver. We kind of covered that in the show. I don't think we need to get another playmaker at wide receiver. Just maybe a couple of depth guys, but I'm on board with getting offensive line beefed up. I'm totally on board with that. Thomas Buse is a regular. He says, Cook, new OC, and a new quarterback. You want a new quarterback, huh?
Not an old quarterback.
He wants a new one. He wants a brand new.
So he doesn't want Drew Brees because he's old.
Oh, shit. I'll take Drew Brees. I'm telling you right now, I had this conversation today. They said, because a bunch of my friends know how much I love the Vikings. They said, Smith, what would you give up to have Aaron Rodgers? I said, I would give up the next 4 first-round picks and a player of whoever's choosing. I would. I'd do it right now because he's young enough. And they said, what's up?
I said, what's to piss everyone off? Our quarterback's going to be Nick Foles next year.
I've had people messaging me and asking me about what it would take for the Vikings to get Nick Foles.
That's the most Minnesota thing to happen. Just
oh my
Nick
God!
Foles.
And he'll come over here and be awful. He'll come over here and be just terrible.
Just terrible.
Tyler Feet6 says Teddy and Dalvin Cook. Can't forget my main man Thielen. That's cool. Adam Thielen getting some love everywhere. Yeah. Soren Norgard says, I look forward to the 3-tech tackle we pick up to replace Tom Johnson and Drew Brees draped in purple. Oh my God. I would be so happy if we could land him for 2 years. I'm telling you.
This is our new Larry Fitzgerald offseason storyline.
Right. Drew Brees to Minnesota. Drew Brees ain't leaving New Orleans. Y'all know
never
that.
Gonna happen.
If it was Madden, we'd make it happen.
That'd be true. Paul Gruber says, without Shermer next season, a positive will be possibly we won't run up the middle every first down we have. That was predictable. He almost never seemed to go away from it. Yeah, that was pretty predictable. Craig Morley says learning from this year's mistakes, going one step further next year. Knowing no matter what happens, we'll never be a complete set of asshats like a large portion of the Eagles fans. All right. We had to take a dig at them there. I didn't know that was coming. And lastly, we left our guy, Dorian Foley. He's a regular. What's up, Dorian? Dang, I was going to say Cook as well. Let me see. I can't think of anything else besides Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook, my final answer.
Dalvin Cook on the brain. Nothing wrong with that.
Kyle, I think you swayed everybody with a good picture of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, the photo did it.
Next week, we're going to ask you who the offensive MVP of the season was. And the week after that, we'll be asking who the defensive MVP was in your book. So stay tuned. Get involved with our pages and let us know because we'll read off your responses on the show and give you a shout out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing who people pick for their offensive and defensive MVP.
So after next week, not next week, but the week after, are we going to do another award show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we probably should. Those are always a lot of fun. I enjoy doing those.
I do too. They're great.
Yep.
That and with the live chat, people giving away their awards, it's always so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do want to take a second to remind everyone, not everyone, the two specific people that are left, that the two survivors from the fantasy, survival league on Yahoo, you have to send us the number of points you believe are going to be scored, the total number of points scored between both teams. Send them to us on Facebook, our email. You can DM on Twitter. You can send it to us any way you can, but we need that number so that we can decide which one of you is going to get the prize package. And I've been throwing some more things in there every time I get something cool, and I got to stop doing that because I'm giving away all my cool stuff.
Yeah, you got to quit that, man, because in the next year, somebody else is going to win. They're going to be like, what the hell? I got to keep changing this bullshit.
Be like, I got a rock? What?
Pick 54 because the Patriots are going to win 54-0.
Ooh.
I'm still bitter about that. We'll give you coverage, too, next week, updates. This is oh, God. Sorry for the language that comes here. This is the shittiest part of the season for us. We did not expect this to happen. Everybody wanted Skull to the Bowl, but it didn't happen. So now we begin all the off-season stuff. We're still going to talk about the Super Bowl, though, so be prepared for that. It's going to be a good one. But I kind of look at this right here. Kyle's got 5 top off-season storylines. You want to talk about those, man? Because these are some pretty good ones.
I haven't done a top 5 since, last off-season because the shows get long during the regular season. So I could do a top 5 list. And so I have 5 off-season storylines that I think are going to be important and that everyone should this is what we should be focusing on. These are in no particular order, by the way. So I got who will Minnesota select to replace Pat Shurmur? We talked about that at the beginning of the show. I think the offensive coordinator will be really important. We have the Vikings quarterback room in 2018, which could look drastically different due to the 3 quarterbacks that are currently free agents, like we talked about as well, too. We have Dalvin Cook that we talked about in this show and how his return will affect the running back room. We have Adam typing in the chat right now, which I will read off. Let's see. We have players that are going to retire. I was looking at Joe Berger, Terrence Newman, and maybe Brian Robinson. I think that is an interesting one that not a lot of people have talked about is what is B-Rob going to do?
Right.
There's a possibility that he could retire after this year. And which free agents will we re-sign and which will we let test the open market? And who will the Vikings look to bring in to improve the team?
Free agency is always fun.
Yeah, I think that those are some really big off-season storylines that we should all be looking forward to.
Not number 6 there about how Mike Zimmer will break the curse?
He will break the curse with voodoo.
Yeah, what he got a crystal ball, and what was the other weird stuff he was doing?
Putting weird stuff in his office or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess he says he's not superstitious, but then he was doing all this stuff, and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I have an interesting article that I would like to end my portion of this show with, and it's from October 5th from Albert Breer last year in 2017 from Sports Illustrated. But here's a list of the veteran quarterbacks that are available, and it's from one being probably the most sought after all the way down to the bottom. Drew Brees, he'll be 39, so probably come to the tail end of his career. I don't know. It looks like Tom Brady's going to play till he's 45, so maybe there's some weird, crazy fountain of youth they figured out and they're not sharing with anyone. Number 2 is Kirk Cousins. 3 is Jimmy Garoppolo. He's probably staying in San Francisco. I don't see him leaving there. 4 was interesting. Neither Sam Bradford nor Teddy Bridgewater is playing right now, and one of them, of the 2, will most likely be in Minnesota. The other, well, that's complicated. Thank you, Albert Breer. We thank you for that obvious quote there.
Yeah.
Number 5 is Alex Smith. Number 6, the Bengals have been reluctant to release AJ McCarron because they like him, but after this year, his deal is up. Tyrod Taylor and Jay Cutler round out 7 and 8. Could do without both of those. But yeah, there's some pretty good and household names on that list.
I'll make it out
there. I'll make a prediction. And Manziel on there.
Yeah. I'll make a prediction that is not at all bold, but it's going to happen anyway. You're going to see a lot of mediocre quarterbacks get huge deals.
You're right.
Just because the Mike Glennon theory?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not mad at him. No, you shouldn't never be mad at a player for making cash, but you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks are going to get a lot of money to play.
I want to finish up by saying that just a reminder that I'm going to be at a lot of those events coming up, and I do want to see you guys there. The Wounded Warrior amputee football team taking on the Vikings alumni stars on January 31st is going to be great.
Get an Adam Carlson autograph.
Highly recommend you go check that out because it's going to be so much fun. And I hope to see you there.
That'd be really cool, man.
The other 2 events, of course, are the Bowl with the Pro Bowler and the Big Game Purple and Gold Kickoff Party. Both of those on February 1st. So, yeah, if you've got a weekend or Thursday, Friday that you kind of want to just kind of hang out and do your own thing, hey, get it done. And I believe I called January 31st New Year's Eve at some point in this show. So if I did, please ignore me because I don't know what I'm talking about. For some reason, that's in my head, and I don't know why it's there or what, but I hope I did not say that.
That's okay. We forgive you if you did. Well, guys, not the way we wanted the season to end, but it was a damn good one. I can't believe we only lost 3 games. No offense to him either, but with Case Keenum starting, playing his best year ever, and then Dalvin Cook going down. Man,
the Vikings totally exceeded all expectations, especially when the starting quarterback and running back went down. We got a moment that we'll never forget with the Minneapolis Miracle.
Amazing.
It's something that I think that we'll treasure for our entire lives. It may not be a Super Bowl trophy, but at least we got something that we'll never forget.
I'm reminded of something that my friend Mike said, and it kind of sounds, if you're not a Vikings fan, like loser talk a little bit, but as a lifelong fan, he was like, sometimes our Super Bowl is beating the Packers twice in 1 year, or sometimes our Super Bowl is like the Minneapolis Miracle, a play like that. Sometimes for us, it's like you just have to. These are the moments that are exciting for Vikings fans, and no, it's not a Super Bowl win, but that doesn't mean they're not great moments.
Nate, yeah, I will be. I'll post up all the events that I'm attending. You know, the Wounded Warrior and the Purple and Gold and the bowling event. I'll post all that up on our Facebook page, along with the dates, times, links to buy the tickets and everything. So I hope to see you guys there because it's going to be a lot of fun. That's all I have for this week. You guys got anything else you want to toss in there?
Go follow all of our stuff, man. And if you guys follow us already, do us a favor, especially you guys in the chat. If you guys would do me this favor, man, I'll figure out a way to give you some shout outs. You can add me personally and give you shout outs, man. Just spread the word about this page and about this show. Go on your Facebook or your Twitter or your Instagram or even your Snapchat if you have one, and just say, hey, man, I really enjoy this Vikings podcast, and it's called the Purple People Podcast. You can type in our link, or if you just want to type it out and just give the name of the show and recommend it to your Vikings fans, friends. We really appreciate it. We've grown so much as a show. I remember, and I'll say this until these guys don't want to have me anymore. This used to be Skype audio. There were no faces to put with voices. We did this a long time ago. I remember coming in at episode number 85 before Mike Zimmer even got here as a guest. And we're all the way to 286 today. We're doing this live. We're interacting. We're building because of you. So thank you guys to everyone in the chat, everyone that does a social media question and interacts with us. Even if you say something stupid or ignorant or mean, at least you found us and took time out of your day. And most of the time, we'll try to take the high road and not be the same way back. But for you locals, I'm saying locals, you let's say locals. What's the word I'm looking for? You regulars. Thank you for always being here and making this, because it's why we do it. If we didn't have you, then it would just be a bunch of guys talking and never getting any interaction. So thank you.
And remember, too, we are not one of those podcasts that now that the season's over, we're going to take a couple months off till the draft. No, we're going to be back every week talking Vikings football. Even if there is not a lot going on, we'll be here to talk about it and just enjoy every moment that we spend with you guys, because we're fans just like you, and we enjoy everything that we got going on. So it's all you guys in the chat and you guys that listen. And, hey, if you can throw us a share or a like or a thumbs up or a subscription or whatever, we appreciate it. And especially if you can go on iTunes, and I know a lot of you guys might not listen to us on iTunes, but if you got iTunes and go over there and throw us a review, a positive one would be nice. I'm not, but I appreciate honesty more than positivity, I guess. But hey, if you can go over and give us a review, we'd greatly appreciate that as well. Do you have anything you want to close with, Mr. West?
I just want to thank everyone for being with us all season. It was such a fun season as a Vikings fan, even though it didn't end the way we wanted it to. But it's just great to be able to share all these moments with all of these fans out there. Yeah, I've been with us for like 3 years now in the chat. That's really super cool.
That is. That's awesome.
That's amazing that people do that. Otherwise, I know we're going long, but I'll plug my movie podcast. It's over at facebook.com/shutup. I like this. We talk about film. We talk about movies because we like movies. And there's so much negativity on internet and Twitter and Rotten Tomatoes of people being like, that's the worst movie ever. Well, that's very rarely the case. So we like to highlight movies that we enjoy and we like. So if you're into that and you want another podcast, go check us out over on that one.
And I want to thank all you guys that have been checking me out on The Viking Age, as well as on Dead Walking. I know that there's not a lot. Well, there's quite a bit of crossover between the two. I meet a lot of Vikings fans who love The Walking Dead, and I appreciate all you guys that go over and click on my stuff or follow me on Twitter and give likes and feedback and conversation on my pieces. And I appreciate all that. You guys are an amazing group of fans, and I wouldn't want it any other way. On that note, I do want to thank all you guys for stopping in. We greatly appreciate you. You can check us out on Facebook, Purple People Podcast, at Purple People Pod on your Twitter machines. You can check us out on Twitter while we're watching the Royal Rumble. Tweet us. We'll talk about some eliminations and surprises. Maybe, who knows?
Maybe we can modify the Discord chat for Royal Rumble Sunday.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be fun. I would be down for that.
But I do want to thank everyone who listens, no matter where you listen. And thank you so much for hanging around with us for the entire season. It's been an amazing time, and we appreciate every one of you. So thanks again, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.